Why should devs and users get involved with Starknet in 2024?
If you share our vision and if you do your research and ask yourself, what is the technology that will be the beachhead to massive, not necessarily speculative adoption of blockchain technology? And I'll share our vision. So my vision and the place we're heading towards is that in a free society, integrity should never be assumed, but rather demonstrated publicly.
Hello, my dear Starknet fam. Welcome to the Stark Cafe, a video podcast about the Starknet ecosystem and its revolutionizing technology, where we feature projects, builders, and the different verticals that are making this scaling solution vibe so high in the layer 2 landscape. But first of all, I would like to congratulate the whole Stark Cafe community for making it to the second season. And as you can see, we are coming back with a new look, consisting in weekly video podcasts rather than multiple Twitter spaces per week. Our Star Cafes will be published on both YouTube and Spotify, so make sure to follow us on both platforms in order to share the Starknet vibe. But without much further ado, let's start with the first episode of this season, as we are going to host a very special guest, so relax and enjoy a high quality Star Cafe. So guys, what a better way to start this new Star Cafe season than by hosting Eli Ben Sasson, co-inventor of the Stark zk proofs, CEO of StarkWare, and board member of the Starknet Foundation. Hello Eli, welcome to the Star Cafe, and thanks a lot for coming. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much, Nostal, for inviting me here, and really happy and honored to start this new series.
Thanks a lot to you, Eli. And well, I think that a great way to break the ice would be taking a step back towards your journey throughout the history of StarkWare and Starknet. So what kind of vision guided you and your team until today? And it would also be very interesting to know your personal considerations about how it was like to switch from an academic and scientific environment to a more business-focused field like the blockchain. Although the focus on great and disruptive technology has always remained the guiding star of StarkWare and eventually of Starknet as well. So Eli, the floor is yours, please.
Yeah, so I guess I started my journey in this area more than 20 years ago. So in 2001, I was doing my postdoc in mathematics and theoretical computer science at Harvard and MIT. And some of the stuff I was working on was related to making a certain kind of proofs called probabilistically checkable proofs more efficient. And together with my host there, Madhu Sudan, who's today also a scientific advisor to StarkWare, we had a number of breakthroughs on that thing. So this was around 2002, 2003, roughly 20 years ago. Then for the next 10 years, I slowly started also doing implementation and thinking about the concrete implementation of proof systems that emerged from that line of work and others. And it was a very long and lonely journey, I should say, meaning I wasn't all alone. I had a lot of collaborators in the scientific world, my PhD students, and collaborators. I'll mention one of them who was a very close collaborator at the time and still is, Professor Alessandro Chiesa, who's also a co-founder of StarkWare. But for roughly 10 years, it was doing stuff that is interested in the concrete efficiency of a certain kind of family of proof systems. And no one cared about it, not in the academic world of theoreticians and not also in the academic world of practitioners. And certainly no one cared about it in the practical world. But I had this gut feeling, we had this gut feeling that there's something really interesting and novel and disruptive here. It will just take time. Then in 2013, I went to the Bitcoin conference in San Jose as I was basically peddling my academic research. And I was doing it mostly at academic institutions, and people were like, they didn't understand why I was doing this. At the Bitcoin conference in San Jose, I got off the podium and like core developers came up and said, when is the code ready? We want to start using it tomorrow. And I felt something very deeply in my heart that there's something here. And this set me on the path of looking at proofs and blockchains. And I would say it's the moment that the academic and theoretical work of zk started going towards blockchain. Now everyone is like doing right. Everyone agrees that like zk rollups and zk technology is the way to scale blockchain, and it is the best way, and it works really well. But in 2013, some Bitcoin visionaries saw this. And, at the time, a very young and smart reporter by the name of Vitalik Buterin also saw that. It was before the Ethereum days, but everyone else was like very dubious. I was a co-founder of the Zcash cryptocurrency, which was the first exhibition of privacy tech using ZK. And the stuff that started in my postdoc years in 2001, it culminated through a number of breakthroughs in 2018 to the publication of the zkSTARK protocol and the foundation of StarkWare. Now, I guess from this story, you can see that the sort of the DNA, both of myself, but also of StarkWare and of Starknet, is that of something that is very disruptive, visionary, but also takes, it's like running a marathon and having conviction to go a long way to realize your vision. And I think that's still true of Starknet today.
Very good. Thanks a lot, Eli, for sharing your very interesting and unique journey. And also congrats for, keeping the focus during times of seeing also people not taking into consideration your hard work and your researches. And I think that also the very good thing about the blockchain space, it's that also aligns economic incentives with innovation. And this all makes this whole field very, very interesting, and it all helps good ideas turning into practical and good products. And also, speaking about being unique, as we know, Starknet stands out from the other scaling solutions when it comes to EVM compatibility. And the fact that Starknet also uses a different programming language than Solidity. We're talking about Cairo. Therefore, it would also be nice for our viewers to know about the motivation behind such choices and about the potential that this different tech approach is unlocking both today and in the near future. And then we'll also get a bit deeper into Cairo.
Yes, I mean, there's something about us that is perfectionist in terms of the technology and the values. We don't want to compromise on things that we think are long-term the best solution for scaling blockchains. And so if you take, the best proving system, the safest, the one that scales most, which is Stark, and you want to squeeze out the maximum amount of performance in terms of very high scale, very high throughput, very low cost, you realize that applying this proof system to an existing virtual machine and programming language like Solidity will mean that you're losing probably 1 to 2 orders of magnitude in your scale or speed if you do that. Now, you can do that. It will work, but it's not the right solution. It's not the perfect solution. It's not the thing that will drive you the most value and get you the farthest and get your users the best user experience and the safest applications. To do that, it is better if you build a new virtual machine and a new programming language that is geared towards that. By analogy, gamers, when they program the graphical parts of the game, they're going to write stuff in CUDA. CUDA is a new programming language that was built to speed up GPUs. And if you really want to get maximum utility from this new technology of GPUs, you're going to write your code in CUDA. Cairo is similar. If you want to utilize and get the maximum amount of scale from your blockchain and your layer 2 and your Stark systems, you're going to write things in Cairo. And that is why time and again we chose to go for the correct, technologically correct solution, understanding and realizing that it will take more effort and more time to build, the infrastructure and developer experience and user experience to match this technological perfectionism. And I'm very proud to say that if you look at the ecosystem builders that we've attracted, thanks to this vision and this perfectionism and this trailblazing approach to, let's build the very best thing possible. We're making up the non-trivial distance in terms of UX experience between our new world that is better, safer, more scalable, and the existing blockchain ecosystems that have a huge advantage on us in terms of number of developer years devoted to them. So you don't yet have the user experience or the developer experience that you have, let's say, on Solana or on Ethereum, but we're very quickly catching up, and our system will be better for developers and for end users. I have no doubt.
Very good, Hale. Yeah, I really like the point where you emphasize that thanks to this different technical approach of choosing, a different language than Solidity, we managed to create a very good vibes-driven community of both developers and also content creators and community builders. And moving towards the community side of things, I would like to hear some additional words about the impressive network effect of the Cairo programming language. And as a language enthusiast myself, I know that spoken languages have always played a crucial role in human history by shaping identities, cultures, and nations, while also helping these same nations to stand out from the others, from their competitors, and so on. Do you also think that we can see some similarities when it comes to programming languages?
Yes, I think that's a very nice analogy between national identities and languages, and then user communities or blockchain ecosystems and languages. So I haven't thought about this before. Now, the reason or the way Cairo came about was not because we wanted to create, but I guess it's true also of languages. I don't think that, various languages were created in order to achieve some unique identity. They served a purpose, right? They were the means of communication that was most efficient amongst a group of people. And I think it's similar here. So in particular, Cairo arose first as an internal tool that wanted to give a Turing-complete yet general purpose programming language that nevertheless will lead to very efficient, very high throughput. So we used it initially internally to build the StarkEx system, which was the first validity rollup on Ethereum, and a very successful one in terms of any metric you pick. The StarkEx systems have settled over $1.2 trillion, hundreds of millions of transactions, saving more than $1 billion of fees to the customers of those systems, speeding up or reducing the cost of transactions by a factor of 20,000 on top of Ethereum. So this is an amazing technological achievement, and I think to a large extent the existence of ZK rollups, the reason that Polygon said, we're all in on ZK, all of the other L2s, it's really the success of the StarkEx system written in Cairo, demonstrating what kind of scale you can get from doing such things that led the path. So Cairo was built as an internal tool that was used to build very efficient scaling systems. And then we realized that we must make it available to all developers in the world. And the best way to do it would be through the Starknet open platform, which is a layer 2, permissionless, like Ethereum, open to all. But it is different. It is better in terms of safety, code ergonomicity. It's Rust inspired. Programmers who use it really enjoy it and prefer it to Solidity, and as a smart contract language also prefer it to the Solana-based Rust. So it's a really great environment. It is in its early days. As I said, if you look at these other environments, be it Solana or the EVM systems, they have an advantage in terms of many, many years, probably decades of developers having built tools on them. So we're closing this gap. It is early days, but those of you who enjoy new, modern, exciting programming languages and want to lead the way in adapting them, please consider exploring it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I also definitely agree with the fact that the StarkEx played such a historical role in the scaling history, I would say. And also, as a DeFi user myself, I remember the day that, when it was like 2020, right? When StarkEx was adopted by DYDX as the first so rare as well, more or less at the same time. And I tried out both protocols since an early stage. And I was impressed by the scaling of the products as, it was such an achievement compared to the very high fees that we're starting to experience on the Ethereum L1. And also transactions at that time on the Ethereum L1 were starting to be quite slow. It would take sometimes even a couple of minutes for transactions to get through. And StarkEx, I would consider it the first scaling experience, then followed by, the other side chains experiences. So definitely, shout out to you, to StarkWare, to the products and the companies that adopted StarkEx. It would have not been easy for them because obviously it was a new product. So they must have been also a bit scary at first. It's normal. But I think it played out very successfully. And hopefully, I hope that StarkEx will also get more adoption in the coming years because it is very suitable for enterprises use cases. And having said that, Haley, the past 2.5 years have been very intense for the Starknet ecosystem as it grew exponentially. And we also saw the pre-token age of Starknet ending with the biggest and most diversified crypto airdrop so far. And during these exciting times, I wanted to know what surprised you the most when it comes to the DApp level and the different use cases and verticals that are being developed on Starknet.
Yes. So it's a terrific question. What has surprised me most and surprised me pleasantly is the emergence of the ecosystem of both developers and also advocates like yourself who share the vision and are very embracing of new members who come. There's a lot of assistance to developers who want to join. And we've managed to attract very high quality builders who really want to test out the most novel and far reaching aspects of the technology. So I'll give one example. Starknet is the only blockchain infrastructure out there, layer 1 or layer 2, that has native account abstraction. This, if used properly, gives you a much better, safer user experience. You can interact essentially with something that feels, in terms of UX, like a Web 2 experience, but you have the self-custodial nature. You own your data, you own your assets, as in Web 3. And two wallets that are 100% Starknet native, namely Bravos and OnChain, are utilizing this and giving end users this amazing and safe user experience. Another example, the gaming community on Starknet is like nothing else out there. People are exploring very, intense on-chain gaming logic, for instance, on the Influence game by Unstoppable Games, and within the Dojo and Loot Realms ecosystem. So we really managed to attract like-minded, explorers and folks for the journey that believe in the vision and the ability of Starknet to transcend what you see on other blockchains today.
Absolutely. And there are so many primitives, verticals, and also sub communities and sub ecosystems that are coming out of Starknet. And, as you mentioned, the on-chain gaming community is growing fast. They are creating a sort of parallel ecosystems, and they are also very resilient because it is a primitive that sometimes disconnected also from the speculative actions. And also we are seeing some good AI-related use cases on Starknet, such Giza's and its Orion's framework in order to build machine learning models using Cairo and zkTech. So definitely we'll see very interesting things coming out of these primitives. And Eli, regarding the Starknet Airdrop, whose design, I must say, positively surprised me a lot for its originality and its Ethereum-aligned inclusivity, despite all the critics and FUD that surround any airdrop. But I would like to know if there are some particular post-event considerations that you would like to share with us.
Yeah, definitely. So the Starknet Airdrop distributed to the largest number of addresses so far, 1.3 million addresses. The previous largest one was, I think, Arbitrum with around 750,000 addresses. So this was nearly twice as large as the largest previous thing. It also, in terms of the network functioning from start to end throughout, there were no, the network did not go down as in other smaller airdrops that happened before. So overall, on those fronts, it was, I think, a huge success. And the team did prepare for it a very, very long time. Now, first of all, let me clarify. So the whole provisions event is something that is done and decided by the Starknet Foundation. I do sit on the board of the Starknet Foundation, but my day-to-day job is at StarkWare. So I'm not authorized to speak on behalf of the Starknet Foundation. But from what I know of the budget allocated to provisions, which is 900 million, the first event did not include all of that sum. So there's definitely stuff reserved for the future. And in terms of what will be done in the future, there is a very serious team that is also processing feedback from the community. I'll mention one thing. One thing that actually, this was perhaps the thing that most surprised me negatively and needs addressing in some way, is that among the class of Starknet users, there has been a lot of criticism on the particulars of the criteria of the original provisions event. So I know that those involved in the provisions are intently listening to feedback from the community, from those who are in touch with end users, and thinking about ways to address those concerns and that criticism, which I'm sure that a lot of it has substance to it. There probably have been farming bots and Sybils and so on. It's very hard to know, but we do know of enough cases of people that we know and we trust, and they know other legitimate users who, from a moral point of view or some, first principles point of view, should have received something in the provisions event and unfortunately did not. So I do know that there is a thought process involving many people from the community and listening to many inputs that is undergoing and thinking about these things, what can be addressed in future installments of the provisions program. I'm very optimistic that those involved are doing the very best they can and spending days and nights and months thinking about the very best way to advance the vision of Starknet and support its users and its ecosystem. Now, whether they will get it perfectly right next time, I'm pretty sure it won't be perfect, but I am sure that they will work as hard as possible to do the thing that they find within limitations to be the very best that can be done.
Sure. Yeah. I also think that the foundation did an amazing job also in shipping the first round of the airdrop. Obviously, it was calculated that many people would have not been satisfied, and as you said, creating the perfect airdrop is impossible. But I think that we can acknowledge the fact that at least we tried our best, and also we managed to include some categories that didn't get any attention in previous airdrops, such as EIP authors, Ethereum solo stakers, and so on. So I also believe that in the next rounds, there will be more people who would be more satisfied. And Eli, as we move to the final part of our Star Cafe, I wanted to know, where do you think that we should improve as a community and ecosystem, and which are the strong points that we should continue to strengthen in the future?
So number one, we should just scale everything and have a lot more of it, more developers, more ecosystem participants, more applications built on Starknet, more, everything. And we're working very hard to do that. Another thing we should improve, and things are improving, is the foundation is a new body. It is completely independent from StarkWare. In many other projects, you have this sort of mitosis, cell splitting, where there's an initial team and it just breaks into two, and one is called labs, the other is called the foundation. And each one of them, like everyone is up and running, and it's basically half of the team. The Starknet Foundation is a new and completely independent body, and that means it takes a little bit more time for it to get up and running. So one thing that I know that is happening on the foundation and happening very quickly, but I do hope that it speeds up, is just the speed of delivery and execution on all fronts of, funding, ecosystem projects, and so on. And I know that Diego and the rest of his team are like really the right people to do this, and they're doing this very seriously. That's another thing we should improve. Another thing, I want to say something about setting expectations. It's a marathon. We're building a completely new and better infrastructure. So we have to set expectations and realize that it will take more time to make everything as UX friendly and as seamless and have the same abundance of choices as you have on the older and technologies that have been around longer. So this is in terms of setting expectations. It will take time till you will find just the utter very best experience and abundance of options on Starknet. We'll get there, but it's going to take time. It's not going to come in the next month or two. Now, that's fine. We're visionaries. We're running a marathon. We're building something that is the right infrastructure to reach global scale. But we have to set expectations. Now, on our side, and I say here the foundation and StarkWare, this means that we have to provision projects with funding and support so that they can build comfortably for months until they reach good product market fit and everything's worked. That's another thing. We have to set expectations. And finally, I think we just have to improve the developer experience and also the user experience to onboard new users, make them aware of all the abundance of applications and opportunities they have in Starknet and of its better safety, security, performance. So questions of narrative, marketing, sharing the story. There's someone like you or those listening who are in the ecosystem know that we have here, just something that is pure, really amazing and different and better. Spreading the word out has been a bit of a challenge, and we need to do more of that. It's we've done harder things. We'll get this thing done as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I'm sure we'll improve a lot in the near future. We've learned a lot from these 2 years. And we listen to one thing that really strikes me in a positive way is that Starknet and the foundation has always listened to the feedback in an humble way. And I think that's the good recipe to success and to future growth. Maybe, I don't know if you would like to finish this Star Cafe with a very brief motivational call towards both devs and users. Why should devs and users get involved with Starknet in 2024 and in the next years ahead?
You should if you share our vision and if you do your research and ask yourself, what is the technology that will be the beachhead to massive, not necessarily speculative adoption of blockchain technology? And I'll share our vision. So my vision and the place we're heading towards is that in a free society, integrity should never be assumed, but rather demonstrated publicly. And the way you can demonstrate integrity publicly is by adhering to computer programs that are open source and source available. And everyone can scrutinize them. Think about the banking system. Wouldn't it be better if the core protocols of payments and stocks and bonds and everything were coded into smart contracts so that everyone can read, same thing with exchanges and matching engines, everyone can read and see how the core of it works, and you'd have experts scrutinizing it and pointing out what is good and bad about it. And then once we agree that this is, let's say, a good piece of code for running a bank, you would want the bank to demonstrate its integrity to the public, not saying, oh, don't worry, there's some auditor that will look at it. No, but rather saying, we will generate periodically, like every day or every hour, a Stark proof that all of our transactions were carried out according to this program, and you and I will verify that thing on our smartphone in, less than a second. And this should be the standard that should apply to all things of value, to all social functions, because that is the only path that I see viable in the days of the internet for us to get back and own our life, own our actions, own our assets. Right now, we don't own them. There are big corporations and government entities that own them. They allow us access to them, and they can censor us and kick us away, and then suddenly we lose all access to our assets. We don't own them. We also don't own our actions. We ask others to act on our behalf. The way to true ownership of our life in a free society requires that integrity be not assumed, but be demonstrated publicly. And ultimately, the reason I get up in the morning and the stuff I've been doing for the past 20 years is really about that. So there's this fun, speculative aspect to blockchain, the meme coins and the NFTs and the DeFi and the high yields. I think it's very important. It is a way in which the public participates in this, checks the technology, helps make it better. But ultimately, that's not our goal. These are the early adopters helping us check the technology, make it better. Ultimately, the goal is a free society in which integrity is not assumed, but is demonstrated publicly by everyone, proving the integrity of their actions using Stark proofs.
Awesome. Yeah, what aspirational take to close this Stark Cafe, Ellis. So we touched on different topics on the early stages of StarkWare and Starknet. We also talked about the importance and the reason why Starknet decided to take a different technical approach than the other scaling solutions. We had a deep dive also on the philosophical reasons why Cairo was established and also the results that this decision is bringing to the community. And then we also talked a bit about Starknet provisions and the use cases that surprised Haley the most. Once again, Haley, thanks a lot for coming to the Stark Cafe. I hope to have you back in the near future.
Thank you, Noorstar. Thank you very much.
Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed the Stark Cafe episode. Please remind that the content of this show has only an educational purpose, and it is not financial advice. Furthermore, if you like the episode, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Having said that, thanks a lot once again for watching, and see you next time to share the Starknet vibe.